good day, everyone. Welcome back to our subject, which is all about the contemporary world. And we are done with the chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. And finally, we are now in the chapter 4, which is all about the global interstate system. So in chapter 4, these are the topics for the last chapter. First, we have the introduction, global governance in the 21st century, effects of globalization to governments, traditional challenges, challenges from national identity movements, global economics, the relevance of the state amid globalization, non-governmental organizations or NGOs, global economic associations, the WTO and NAFTA, the globalization and globalism, informationalism, and the global citizenship. So for today's lesson, we are targeting to finish the first 5 topics, okay? So our first topic is all about the introduction of our chapter 4, okay? So in this topic, we will look at regional alliances and worldwide organizations of states. So this manifest the efforts of countries and governments in the world to cooperate and collaborate together. So let's start the introduction. First, the state has traditionally been the subject of most interest to scholars of global politics because it is viewed as an institution that creates warfare and it sets economic policies for a country. And furthermore, the state is a political unit that has authority over its own affairs. So in other words, its borders are recognized by other countries. So it is assumed that whoever is in charge of those borders has the right to determine exactly what is going to happen in their country. And the Treaty of Westphalia of 1648 established the notion of the nation state and the idea of state sovereignty. And today, the globalization of politics created an atmosphere where the ideas of the nation state, state sovereignty, government control, and state policies are challenged from all sides. And that's the introduction of our chapter 4. Okay, let's proceed to the global governance in the 21st century. So this topic, there is a series of specific factors behind the emergence of global governance. And the first is the global governance in the 21st century. So the first in the list must be the declining power of nation states. States themselves were highly contingent and in flux, and that's according to Cerny, year 2007, page 854. So according to Cerny, it would open the possibility of the emergence of some form of global governance to fill the void. Mo na siya yung kasabot. And the second is the vast flow of all sorts of things that run into and often right through the borders of nation states. So this could involve the flow of digital information of all sorts through the internet, of course. And it is difficult, it's not impossible for a nation state to stop such flow and in AC or in any case. Dili siya para daw sa nation state to stop such flow and in any case. And it is likely that such action would politically unpopular and bring much negative reaction to the nation state involved in such effort. And another set of issues that has led to calls for global governance involves horrendous events within nation states that the states themselves either foment and carry out or are unable to control. And that's according to Nordstrom year 2004. So for example, in Dufar, in Darfur, part ni siya sa Sudan. Okay? So perhaps, sa una pa ni siya ha, perhaps hundreds of thousands of people have been killed and millions of people na displaced and the lives of many disrupted in a conflict that dated back to early 2003. And that is an example of Nordstorm 2004. Now, mo ano siya ang it led to calls for a global governance involves horrendous events within a nation state nga ang states themselves either foment or carry out or are unable to control. Mo to siya akong example sa Darfur sa Sudan, hundreds of thousands of people have been killed and millions of people displaced and the lives of many disrupted in a conflict dated back in year 2003. So the government of Sudan and its military have been implicated in the conflict between ethnic and tribal groups. And ang mga Sudanese, mga tao, ang mga Sudanese government have been resistant to outside interference in its internal affairs. Next. Then there are global problems that a single nation state cannot hope to tackle in their own. Again, there are global problems that single nation state cannot hope to tackle on their own. And one is the global financial crisis and the panic that swept the world periodically, which nations are often unable to deal with their own. Next, indeed, some nations have often been and are being victimized by such crises. So they are unable to help themselves. Such nations are in need of assistance from some type of global governance. So unable din sila to help themselves. Next, nation state have struggled to lead with problems like this through various interstate systems. Example, the alliances such as the NATO, or the NATO means the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So again, nation state have struggled to deal with problems like this through various interstate system. So but the more recent trend is toward the development of more truly globalized structures and methods of dealing with various sorts of issues and problems. Next, we have the effects of globalization to governments. It's not globalization. lacking of letter G. Okay, again, our topic is all about the effects of globalization to governments. So one of the key aspects of state sovereignty is the government. It is a group of people who have the ultimate authority to act on behalf of a state. Okay, so effects of globalization to governments. Each state has its own right to self-determination, and that other countries should not intervene in the affairs of that state unless there are extraordinary reasons to do so. And other countries must recognize sovereignty or the right to govern one's own territorial borders. So each state is autonomous unto itself and responsible within its own system of government to those who are governed. Okay? And the decisions, the conflict, and the resolution of that conflict are done through the institutions of government established and codified in that particular state, whether or not through elections. And also elections, especially in democratic society, they provide the leadership of the state. And in addition, the policy is developed and implemented in the interest of the people of a state by a specific government. And a civil society within a state can also act as a counterweight or a supplement to government. Therefore, civil society includes the private economy, the educational institution, the churches, the hospitals, the fraternal organization, and other non-profit organizations. And there have been several there have been several challenges to the government and ultimately to state autonomy. And we can divide these challenges into four. We have the traditional challenges from national identity movements, global economics, and global social movements. And now let's start with the traditional challenges. So external intervention can generally be described as invasion by other countries. So invasion here, muna siya ang pagsalakay to the other countries. Again, external intervention can generally be described as invasion by other countries. So for example, when Saddam Hussein was the ruler of Iraq, year 1990. Again, for example, when Saddam Hussein was the ruler of Iraq in year 1990, so Saddam, he decided that he was going to take over the oil fields of Kuwait, and he invaded Kuwait and took it over. So as a result, he was dislodged by an international coalition led by the United States. And mao na siya ang example sa external intervention. So ang result ato, nakatong siya ang ruler, di ba siya ang ruler sa Iraq in year 1990. So si Saddam nag-decide siya nga iyang i-take over ang oil fields sa Kuwait. And iyang gi-invade ang Kuwait to took over it. So ang result ato, he was dislodged by an international coalition led by the US or the United States. Next, international political challenges can also happen. For example, after the Arab Spring in Egypt. So, mo siya ang scenario sa Arab Spring in Egypt. So, Arab Spring is was a series of anti-government protests, uprisings, and armed rebellions that spread across much of the Arab world in the early 2010. So what happened kay new constitution daw was created and government was elected. So the government was more fundamentalist and rejected the notion of plural society that included religious diversity. So the military staged a coup that disposed the government in order to restore the stability. And there are also regional organizations challenging state autonomy. The United Nations intervened in Sudan because of the several years of civil war. Next, we have the challenges from national identity movements. So the next challenge are part of the national identity or movements. So it is important to know that a nation has a cultural identity. Again ha, ang nation daw has a cultural identity that people attach to, while state is a definite entity due to its specific boundaries. However, different people with different identities can live in different states. And that's the end of our discussion. Alala siya ka-simple ang challenges from national identity and movement. Na lahi nga people, lahi nga identities can live in a different states. Alala siya ka-simple ang challenges from the national identity movements. So the end. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you learned something new today. If wala, rewatch lang ni ang pre-recorded videos until masabtan ang mga gipangyaw-yaw na ko or ato ang discussion for today. Thank you so much. Keep safe, everyone, and God bless us all. Thank you.